So it's late afternoon. I've got barely any sleep, and it's like the last session, right? So I'm sure everybody wants some excitement. It was awesome that, Neil, you teed up, what are you looking for next? Because that's exactly what we're going to talk about right now. And so this morning we talked about some of the things that maybe are coming in, maybe in a couple weeks, maybe in this quarter. What we're going to talk about in this session right now are things that are maybe in our lab, things that we're looking at in like the 6 to 12 to 18-month time frame. Mostly because we want your feedback, but really a big part of it is because when you when you buy a new Relic, you're buying our future too. You're not just buying the current feature set. You're buying into our vision, and you want to make sure that you're philosophically aligned with where we're going, and that we're philosophically aligned with what you need. So there's like I said this morning, there are 45 engineering teams at New Relic, 320 folks across all of engineering. What I'm going to present and what we're going to talk about today is a very, very small subset of what we'll deliver, but we wanted to talk about a couple of things that we thought were really interesting. So I mentioned this morning, and I know maybe for some that are new to New Relic, it wasn't very obvious, but one of the things we're constantly doing across all of our user interfaces, across all the products, is putting more and more data, more of this raw data into our New Relic database, NRDB. And so over the course of this year, we're going to be rebuilding our APM transaction page, which today is built on metrics. If you want to be able to go and filter and facet this transaction analytics page by, let's say, a user, or by an AWS region, or by a city, you can't do that. You can do it in Insights, but you can't do it in the end user interface. And so we're going to be building that out, so it's going to have some really great faceting capabilities. The second thing is adding, again, more data into NRDB. We're going to be capturing not just the metrics about JavaScript errors, but actually the individual errors themselves, and putting that into NRDB so that you have the same filtering and faceting capabilities that you have with, say, mobile crashes today. And you can see this trend of more and more stuff is going into NRDB, more and more data we're giving to you. And so the result is that we have some customers that, you get 8 days of Insights data for free if you buy any New Relic product. Some customers have 30 or 60 or 90, 180, 360 days of retention, which results in them having literally billions, in some cases trillions of events. And in a lot of cases, you don't actually want all of that data. You want, in some cases, you want 365 days view of maybe performance. But there are a lot of use cases where our customers, and you in particular, all want to be able to see maybe a small subset of that billions or trillions of events. You want to be able to save maybe the individual events, their checkout events. You want to be able to keep that for 365 days. Or maybe what you want is actually just the aggregate view. You're running a big ops team, and you need to be able to trend, and for planning purposes, how your data is aggregated. And so we're building a set of tools that will live likely inside of Insights that will allow you to either keep select parts of the data for as long as you want, or to turn those raw pieces of data into aggregates. And one of the, again, putting more and more data into Insights, one of the things we're trying to do is also build tools for you to be able to manage the way that, like, let's say for a browser, how the URLs are rolled up. And we'll be able to do the same thing with APM. But this is only because we actually have the raw data in our data center. And with all this data and all these tools, you're still going to be left with, wow, I've got so much stuff. There's errors now. I have mobile crashes. I have transaction events. Soon we'll have network events. So if any time a request goes out of a mobile device, we'll capture every single one of those network events. There's a ton of stuff. I'm overwhelmed. I wish you would do something for me to tell me how I can use that data.
Sure, boss. Let me do that. So a lot of times people say, well, just bring some artificial intelligence and pour some of that on, and that's going to solve all of our problems. But at New Relic, what we're really trying to think about is applied intelligence, right? So what are the techniques that we can bring that really solve your problems? The little subnet up here about no cat pictures. You start to search for AI examples on the web, and there's lots of stuff about digital processing, and I can identify a cat picture. But that's not the world that we live in. And I'm an engineer, and these folks are engineers, and probably a lot of you are engineers. And I think we have a healthy skepticism about hype. And so what we're really trying to make sure is that everything we do build into the platform, that's literally my whole job, is figuring out how to bring these techniques to solve your problems, but that it's real, that it's solving a real problem for you. So we're going to talk about a couple examples, and then we're going to actually see real software, because I know it's more fun than slides. So this is something that right now, I think it's 8:30 back home, so engineers are working on this right now. And this is our automatic error attribute suggester, which we'll probably maybe get a better name for before we ship it. Because that really didn't roll off the tongue, did it? And what this is, so this is actually an idea that came from one of our engineers who worked on our browser team, but now works on our intelligence team. And he said he noticed whenever he had a problem, a particular error would show up, he would start trying different facets. What's different about this? You know, is it a certain account? Is it a certain browser? Is it a certain thing that's going on that I can identify? And then he said, wait a minute, computers are really good at this. And he found the right math. And so what we're building is something that when you have an error that comes up, when you go to the page, you'll actually be able to see the facets that are most likely correlated with that error. In other words, what are the things that are unusual about this error compared to all the other errors that you have in your system? So it's going to really speed up that time to identify and fix your problem. We talked this morning about baselines. I wanted to point out here just that what we really have is a service that is serving up internally baseline algorithms. So we're actually work with a whole suite of baseline algorithms. We identify the one that fits best, the particular data pattern that we're evaluating, and we're actually working to bring these into more parts of the platform. So it's not going to be just alerting or just a certain page. It's a service that we're going to be able to build multiple features on top of. So going back to buying our future, this is part of what we're building for you is key services that we can use to deliver value in different ways. So now let's talk about Seymour. Declan mentioned it earlier. We're real excited about it because it was started as a research project that we're now actually turning into a product that is really bringing personalized intelligence about your systems and your data. And what we're trying to do with Seymour is elevate the data that is either going to help you prevent an outage, fix it faster, or just give you operational visibility. Because again, what you tell us is, you have my data, there's so much data, I'm overwhelmed, tell me what I should look at and what I should pay attention to. So that's what we're working on with Seymour. Rebecca here is going to do a demo. Rebecca Holshoe is senior software engineer. She's been working on this project for over a year now, we figured out, I think.
Yeah, a little bit.
So I'm super happy to have her here to get this demo rolling. And there we go. And now I'm going to immediately take the stage back because I'm a product manager and I'm like that. So what I want to do now is just tee up a little bit of what you're seeing here. So on the left, you have what we often call the feed. And it's showing you a series of pieces of information that we call cards. But the core idea behind this is we have software that's constantly running, analyzing your data, looking for patterns that are useful. And then we use some other things that Rebecca will talk about to decide what to show you and what you care about. And then on the right, you're seeing an example of a card that's actually kind of low-tech from an AI perspective, but actually really helpful because it's something like time to disk full. We have other things that tell you, you know what, you've got an agent that's out of date. So we're trying to work both on the very high end of sort of artificial intelligence, but also on a very practical end, and we're not really snobby about what kind of algorithms we use if they're solving your problems. So with that said, I'm going to turn over to Rebecca, who's going to show you how this works.
Yeah, so what we do is we look at your page views to figure out what kind of applications you're interested in and also what your role is in the organization. And we use that to curate the feed that has interesting and relevant and useful content. And you know, as developers, we know that sometimes when we deploy things, we actually make things worse. So this is a helpful card that tells you when there's a deployment with a performance regression. We give you some information about the deploy, such as when it happened and who started it, as well as what the performance regression actually is. And if you're an ops person who's in charge of monitoring deploys, you can easily share this information with the relevant developer team by mentioning team members in a comment, and they'll get notified via Slack. And if you're on the developer team that's in charge of this application, we give you a lot of good information, as well as some extra resources so you can get straight to the bottom of this issue. But you know what? Seymour can do one better. Since we monitor different parts of your ecosystem, we can use correlation to determine the root cause of this performance regression. So in this instance, the slowdown was caused by an increase in time spent within this really long method. And we found that that is highly correlated to the errors we saw in the above chart. So we figure that this is probably the root cause. And we give you some helpful next steps to resolve this issue quickly.
And that root cause analysis is another example of where we're building a service that we're going to be able to use in multiple places. So you might see it in Seymour, and you might actually end up seeing it in some other places in the New Relic platform. And I think you had a favorite, right? We were talking before like our favorite cards in Seymour.
If you wanted to click on the, do you want to explain the N+1, or do you want me to take a hack at it?
Sure. Well, like an N+1 query is when you have a highly inefficient query that is running N+1 times for the amount of n's that you have.
So this is a great example where we're looking deep inside your application, and I'm guessing all of us have sat in front of a computer before, and on localhost you write a bunch of code, and it turns out that on your localhost it runs one time, and it's super fast, and you check it in, you deploy it to production, and then there's inevitably one customer that does 2,700 of those things, and instead of doing one query, you do 2,700 queries. That wouldn't show up probably in staging, because you probably don't have the same amount of data on your staging instance, because it's really hard to copy around terabytes of data. And you might not see it in production right away, because it's probably like the edge case customers, right? So this would be a case of, we're detecting it for you, hopefully before it brings down your instance. Maybe if this customer viewed the page a bunch of times and did 2,700 database transactions per transaction, that would be quite a bit of stuff happening. So we're trying to understand your data deeply, be able to give you a proactive notification that something potentially is wrong and that you need to fix something.
And I'm going to throw in one more of my favorite things, a conversation I had today with Alberto Gomez, who's one of our product managers for AWS integrations. And he said, Nadia and Rebecca came up and got us. He said, I have these great ideas for cards around AWS. There's all kinds of things we could recommend. And we said, well, guess what? We actually have an API internally, and any one of the New Relic teams, as they're learning about the types of problems they're solving, are going to be able to publish into Seymour. So it really is a platform capability where we're going to be able to build in all the different intelligence from all the different teams within New Relic and bring that into different parts of the app. So, anything else for me, Rebecca?
Yeah, I mean, we also track all user feedback, like upvotes and downvotes. So the more people that use Seymour and the more people that give us feedback, the better the Seymour feed is going to be, and the more relevant and useful it will be for everyone.
Yeah, I got one thing that we didn't mention about the left-hand side of the feed. So this is one place where we're actually using machine learning in the cat detection sense. And I believe it's mostly a collaborative filter. There's the upvotes and the downvotes. And what we're looking at is we're looking at your job title. We're looking at the types of things that you view, be it applications or infrastructure or browser. And then based on what you view, based on what your title is, based on your behavior, we're making recommendations about what things you should go look at. And so that was, I think, a pretty novel use of machine learning.
Sometimes it's just good math, sometimes it's a heuristic, and sometimes it's like honest-to-God machine learning with training algorithms on the whole bit. And that's, again, I think part of the message we wanted is we're trying to find the right tool for the right problem. And as you can see, we're all excited because we all want to talk about it. So.
Great.
So,
I think that's it.
I think we're
so
done.
thank you very much for your time, and look forward to talking about this at the party tonight.